All right. Welcome, everyone. We have an exciting program. If I can ask you, please make sure you're on mute. If you have any questions, use the chat box. We will try to answer the questions throughout the program. Thank you very much for showing up today. Gary, all yours.
Perfect. Thank you, Michael. And thank you to everyone over our 50 to 60 guests that are joining us today for our 12 to 1 o'clock Tuesday, March the 30th Zoom program from the Aventura Chamber of Commerce. Good afternoon. My name is Gary Pyatt, proud chairman of the Chamber of Commerce. And with us today, we have many guests, which I will introduce in 1 second. But our program today is how to respond to threats: in person, phone, electronic messages, and cyber attacks. Today with us, we have a fantastic group of panel members that are going to touch on various items. So again, as Michael said, please, anytime you have a question or something, please drop it into the chat box. First of all, again, as always, let me thank our extraordinaire Zoom administrator, Mr. Michael Stern, for putting this together and giving up his time today. We have our panel members, a very, very esteemed and special guest with us today for panel members. Today we have FBI Special Agent Bryan Waterman, Aventura Police Chief Brian Pegues, North Miami Beach Police Chief Richard Rand, Sunny Isles Beach Police Captain Mike Grandinetti, and Chief Dwight Snyder, sends his regards with unable to be with us today. So thank you for joining us, Captain Grandinetti. We also have with us as partner for today's program, our chamber partner for today is the North Miami Beach Chamber, and we are fortunate enough to have the president there, Mr. Evan Piper, with us today. So Evan, if you would like to give a shout out for today to everybody.
Well, good morning, and thanks again for partnering with us on this event. We're always delighted to work with you guys and your great events. Super excited today that we have one of the panelists, our very own and very new Police Chief Rand. Incredible individual. He's been with the city and with the department for a long, long time. I don't want to take too much thunder. I'll leave that for your other introductions, but really super excited about that also. And also we have with us today one of our directors, Sylvia Vanni, and I believe another lifetime director, Dr. Jack Berman. So really super excited with that as well. And also today is our executive director, Leslie Lowenthal. But with all that, just another big thank you to you guys for work on this, and really excited to see a great program today again.
Perfect. Thank you, Evan, and thank you for always being supportive of us and the programs that we're putting together. And thank you to everyone from your chamber that's participating today. Next, our sponsor for today is the City of Sunny Isles Beach. And for that, we have our president of our Aventura Chamber, Elaine Adler, to address the sponsorship from City of Sunny Isles Beach. Elaine?
Yes, well, on behalf of Sunny Isles Beach Mayor Bud Scholl, commissioners, city manager Chris Russo, and all the department heads, greetings. They said they're very delighted to always participate with the Aventura Marketing Council, Chamber of Commerce, and the Greater North Miami Beach Chamber. For those of you who may not know, Sunny Isles Beach has well over 20,000 residents, probably growing since everybody's moving down this way. Over 1 million visitors, one of the safest municipalities, just like Aventura, thanks to their award-winning police department led by Chief Dwight Snyder. They send their appreciation for allowing them to sponsor and wish you all a wonderful meeting.
Perfect. Thank you, Elaine. So now on to the program. As I said, we will be covering various topics today. We have our 4 special guests today. Each of the special guests will give a different topic, some very valuable information on a different topic. They will be speaking for in around 5 minutes. So again, as Michael and I said earlier, please, anytime you have a question, comment, please drop it into the chat box, please. So first of all, our esteemed special guest, Special Agent from the FBI, Bryan Waterman.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm going to read to you a quick quote that I just was looking over when I was researching our topic. And there's 2 types of businesses out there. There are those who have been victims of cyber attacks and those who have been victim of cyber attacks and don't know that they've been victims of cyber attacks. So my name is Special Agent Bryan Waterman. I am with the Miami Division. I've been an agent for the Miami Division for 25 years. I'm the training coordinator, and I spent 17 years prior to doing training working white-collar cases. What I'm going to talk to you quickly about today is I'm going to talk to you about cyber threats. Specifically today, we're going to talk about ransomware. So I'm going to explain to you what ransomware is, what you can do about it, and then, of course, what you can do to prevent yourself from being a victim. The reason we want to talk about ransomware is because that's one of the big things you see in the news. Businesses, you see cities, private industry, things like that. Mike, if you can just throw up my slide real quick. I promise I only have one of these today, but this kind of gives you a quick idea to see all the different places just here in the state of Florida that have been victims of ransomware. And we're talking about, when we talk about ransomware, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. What is ransomware? And it is a type of malware that is used to encrypt the owners of companies or cities' files and documents and make them unreadable until you pay a ransom. So hence the reason ransomware. The reason it's becoming a bigger and bigger problem is getting a hold of ransomware, and you can take the slide down, is becoming easier and easier. So folks are getting on the dark web, they're able to obtain these things, and it's relatively cheap to do. The other thing too is cryptocurrency is making it easier and easier for our cyber criminals out there to not only conduct one of these these malware frauds, but they're easier to get away with it because it's very difficult to trace the fundings that people have to pay for it. So if you happen to be a victim of one of these malware, ransomware attacks, what do you do? So the FBI realized in 2018 that this was a big problem. And what we did was we created something called the Recovery Asset Team, which is part of the Internet Crime Complaint Center. So if you ever have, or you ever know of somebody that's a victim, simply Google FBI IC3, and it'll take you to our website where you can file a complaint. The RAT team, of course, everything in the FBI we like to give an acronym to. I'm pretty sure the Recovery Asset Team doesn't like that acronym, but they have been set up to streamline communication between the FBI and the victims of this ransomware and the financial institutions. So we combine those two things together, and they help us assist with the recovery of the funds that are actually paid in ransomware, or it helps us to establish who is actually conducting these ransomware attacks on places. So in 2019, we observed somewhere in the neighborhood of $400 million. And just keep in mind, this is just what was reported to us. And we were able to help recover up to $300 million in recovery of the assets that were paid for ransomware. One of the biggest attacks that took place very early on that caught the FBI's attention was something called the SamSam ransomware. There was over 200 victims of this, including the city of Atlanta, the port of San Diego, and MedStar Health. It resulted in a $30 million fraud scheme. Why is this important? Because it was actually the very first indictment that the FBI did against a ransomware defrauders. So if you ever happen to be a victim, again, look to the FBI. The IC3 form is the way to go ahead and report that, and we can get you the proper support and things that you need to work on this type of case. Now, how do you stop it? Well, there's a lot of different things that we can do it. Ransomware basically comes in through a lot of different means. One of which is just basically they do some phishing through the email systems. So you have to really spend some time focusing on awareness and training. Keep your patches updated, those Microsoft patches that come through. Make sure that your company is continuing to keep it updated. Personal folks, you got to do that as well. You got to keep your antivirus and anti-malware updated as well. And make sure that your administrator on your accounts is well-versed in some of the things that could happen. The other thing is you want to disable your Microsoft macro and use your Office Viewer software in email. So when you have those automatic downloads in some of your email systems, those are openings for companies to get into them. And then implement software restriction policies. Make sure that not all people in your system have access to everything. And finally, back up your stuff. And let me repeat that. back up your stuff and make sure you have it somewhere that it can be recovered. A lot of times people that are victims of malware, the victims of malware and ransomware, they decide they're not going to pay the ransom because they have a backup. Well, when they go to those backup systems, a lot of them aren't working. So that's really forcing folks to go ahead and pay that. So thank you again for your time. I look forward to listening to the rest of the presentations.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Mr. Waterman. Thank you for your time. Our second speaker for today is our very own Aventura Police Chief, Bryan Pegues. Chief?
Well, Gary, thank you for having me. And thank you, Special Agent Waterman. Those are excellent points and how to protect yourself. But I wanted to talk about the topic today is threats. And I just wanted to give my insight and a little bit of an overview of what here at the Aventura Police Department, the type of threats that we most commonly deal with, and then how to report them properly, and then what we do for our community in investigating those and bringing closure to the victims. So we have a couple. I wanted to touch on in-person threats. So especially during the holiday season here at the mall, and people are coming here shopping, we have people that are either angry, we get into in-person confrontations. It could be from a parking dispute, it could be from a road rage incident. And what we try to tell people is to avoid confrontations at all costs. Getting into a confrontation, you don't know what the other person is capable of doing. You don't know if they're armed or what their intent is. And the biggest thing on confrontations, especially in-person ones that have come from random strangers that are spontaneous, they tend to be ego-driven. And those are things that if you've heard the expression, it takes two to tango, well, it truly does. And I just want everybody that's listening to keep something in mind. I know it's upsetting. Somebody may come in and take your parking spot. They may cut you off, or they may yell at you, or they may scream at you. And none of these incidents have anything to do with you. They have to do with the individual person, what's wrong with them. It is something that it's an issue with them. It has nothing to do with you. It's not a personal thing. It's not a personal attack that they're coming against you. It's an instability that they have with themselves. And if you look at it that way, instead of rising to the occasion, just ignore it. And if it is something that somebody threatens you, or there's an intent, get as much information as you possibly can, call us, and I assure you that our officers are throughout the city and will respond as quickly as possible. You could always, if you feel that somebody's following you, or if you feel that, one good thing, depending on where you're at, is drive to the local police station. If you can drive to our parking lot, you can call us, you can be on the phones. Hey, somebody's following me, somebody had threatened me. This is the information. Come directly to the police station. Or if you see a marked officer, flag them down or wave them down. And typically the person that's following you will go on their own way, and we'll get as much information, and we'll follow up with that. Now, some of the other common types of threats that we have, and pretty much the most common, are cyber threats, cyber stalking. Recently the Florida legislature didn't have a mechanism for us to enforce or really charge people appropriately for cyber threats and over the internet, whether it be Facebook, it could be text messages or those type of things. And a couple of years ago, the legislature implemented some pretty strict parameters and felony statutes on certain things. But let me just go over what cyber stalking or what cyber threats are. So through any type of social media outlet, whether it's Facebook, whether it could be Instagram, or even just text message, if somebody is harassing you, whether it's a known person, an unknown person, it is illegal. Please maintain any of those records. Don't delete any of them. And if it's something that's repeated and they're harassing you for whatever it may be threatening you, or they're talking about that they're spying on you, or those different things, please report those to law enforcement immediately. If it rises to that level, it is a misdemeanor crime that officers, once they have probable cause, they don't need a warrant, they can go out and make an arrest. If somebody over a social media platform, whether it's text message, email, or any of those mechanisms, physically threatens you or repeatedly harms you that they're going to come and do something to you, that automatically becomes a felony, a crime. And we will go out. We've had many of these cases where victims were either threatened or stalked by somebody that came from out of town, or somebody they knew, an ex-boyfriend, or somebody they had just met. And I assure you, coming and reporting those, we take those with the utmost priority. We have investigators that will work those 24/7 to make sure that you are protected, and then we go out and apprehend the individual. And we work with the state attorney's office to appropriately charge them. Now, some of the other threats, we talk about in-person threats, we talk about cyberbullying, especially with your children. And one more thing I wanted to add with any of the cyber threats, if the victim is under 16 years of age, it automatically is a third-degree felony. So for any of your children, if anybody's threatening them or doing anything harm over social media platforms, please report those, and those are an automatic felony. But some of the other things that we commonly deal with are scams. And how are scams threats? Well, we just completed a case, which I'll get into in a moment, but it targeted our elderly community, not only here in Aventura, but throughout South Florida. And what happens is they either contact through email, through phone. We all get random phone calls throughout the day wanting us to extend our warranty on our vehicle. They want us, the Social Security Administration, it's from the credit card company. There's a whole litany of different scams that people do. And what most of us do, we hang up on it, we block the number, and we go about our day. But they're very persistent, and especially with some of our elderly population, they're able to manipulate them, and they'll come across as, I'm here with the Social Security Administration, I'm here with the IRS, you didn't pay your taxes, or we have an alert on your account. And they'll talk to them and say, listen, you need to make an immediate payment so we can clear this off your account. And they'll engage them in conversation. And inevitably, they may call several hundred people in a week, and all it takes is 5, 6, 7 to bite, and they get a couple $1,000s, and they'll get somebody to give them their credit card information. They'll get somebody to wire them money it could be through, Wells Fargo or any of the different money outlets, send them a check or a money order. And then a couple of weeks later, they realized that this was a scam and indeed wasn't the Social Security Administration or the IRS, who are never going to call you in person. I repeat, they are never going to call you in person and tell you that you owe money. It's not going to happen. That's not the mechanism for them doing that. So if you get anything like that, it's an automatic scam. But what we do here at the Aventura Police Department, especially for our community, with these types of scams, and there's numerous ones. And what I'm going to provide to Elaine and Gary afterwards is I have a couple of handouts that she'll make available for everybody that's on this this Zoom meeting that you can have, and it lists some of the most common scams, exactly what to do, where to report them, and then it also gives you the mechanism. So if you're the victim, if I'm the victim of identity theft, I'm calling the police are on their way. What are some things I can do immediately to protect myself or safeguard my information? So it's going to have all of that for you. And then it's going to also have what Special Agent Waterman spoke about too, is a little bit of an overview of the FBI's ic3.gov website, where you report anything that happens over the internet and the threshold for doing that. And they'll contact us if you do that mechanism. They usually divvy it out to the local law enforcement agencies. But what we do here, and I know a lot of our local partners do, is our investigators, and going back to this elderly scam, so there were several victims here in Aventura that were scammed. But we also, when we started looking into the case, we found out there was victims in Broward County, there was victims in Palm Beach County, we had victims in New York City, we had victims all over the place. Our detectives, we have a full-time economic crimes unit, and all of our detectives in that unit are deputized as federal agents. They work with the Secret Service, they work with the IRS, and that enables them, for a lot of these crimes, is we're able to get subpoenas when they're out of state, when they're out of our jurisdiction, or there's other victims in other jurisdictions, we can appropriately charge the offenders. And we just had one where we arrested, this was 2 weeks ago, we served several warrants, and we federally indicted 7 individuals that were scamming elderly individuals throughout, like I said, Aventura, South Florida, and also in the nation. It was a really, really big case. And the only reason that we were able to work that all the way to the end is we worked with our federal partners, is because our detectives are task force officers. So here in the Aventura Police Department, if you're the victim of identity theft, you're the victim of one of these threats or scams, and the offender may live Palm Beach, they may live out of state, we are going to investigate these crimes. We investigate all crimes, and if there are any leads, we are going to work them to the end if possible. So that's just a little bit of an overview. If anybody has any questions, they can put them in the chat room. They could always contact me here at the Aventura Police Department. And like I said, I'm going to provide that literature to Elaine so she can get that out to everybody, and you can look at it at your leisure and have some resources. One last thing is if you don't live in Aventura, you live maybe in Pembroke Pines, you live someplace else. If you are the victim of identity theft, a lot of people don't know this, wherever you live, even if somebody used your credit card here in Aventura, they stole your identity and they're using your stuff, that local jurisdiction where you live has to take the report. They're mandated by law. And if you have a pen and paper, you can write this down real quick. It's Florida State Statute 817.568. You can let the local law enforcement officer know, because a lot of times they say, no, you got to call this jurisdiction or you got to call that jurisdiction. And it's not fair to the victim where you have to start calling every place your credit card was used. The place where you live is supposed to take that report and to facilitate the investigation. So you can always quote that statute. They're required by statute to do so. We said we do that here in Aventura. And again, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to reach out to me, and have a great day. And I'll look for any questions in the chat room and be happy to answer them for you. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Chief Pegues. Thank you for all of the information. There are a couple of questions in the chat room, but we will address those after all of you guys have a chance to speak. Next on our agenda is our North Miami Beach Police Chief Richard Grand.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and it's an honor to be here today. I want to thank Bryan Waterman and Chief Bryan Pegues. Yes, my name is Richard Grand. I'm the newly appointed Chief of Police here at North Miami Beach. I've been with the city 24.5 years, and I'm very proud to be able to be here with all of you today, and honored to be here with all of you today. A lot of what Chief Pegues said, I can expand on a little bit in what we do here at North Miami Beach. So there's two types of threats: a credible threat and a non-credible threat. A credible threat is somebody that's making a threat and they have the immediate ability to carry out that threat, which could possibly lead to an assault or battery or something of that nature. Under Florida State Statute 784, an assault is an intentional unlawful threat by word or act to do violence to the person of another, coupled with an apparent ability to do so, and some act which creates a well-founded fear in such person. So an example would be if somebody cuts you off in the parking lot, and then they get out and they ball up their fist and they hold their fist in front of you and they say, I'm going to punch you in the face. There's a credible threat, right? They have the ability to carry out that threat because now they've made a fist and now they're standing in front of you, so they have the ability to strike you. At that point, some things to do. Number one is obviously to de-escalate the situation, right? Maybe even if you're in a place where there's a lot of people, maybe even start screaming and speaking loudly, back up, move away. I'm going to call the police to draw attention to what's going on so that other people pay attention and get involved. And then you have the non-credible threat. You have threats where people make threats through third parties, whether it be through the internet, through a friend or a coworker or something of that nature. Those threats should also be taken very seriously. And you should report any threat if you feel that your life or somebody in your family's life is in danger. We here at North Miami Beach, my officers are taught deactivation techniques where we we do role playing where we have people that are threatening the officers, or the officers are showing up on a call where there's threats being made to somebody. And we try to, bring the person down a level, talk to them, find out what's going on with them. We have CIT officers, crisis intervention trained officers. We have hostage negotiators if it rises to that level. So officers are trained to respond to these types of threats. Another threat that I'll talk about is threat over text messaging. Threats over text messaging are also against the law. And like Chief Pegues said, one of the most important things we can do is to preserve the evidence, right? Take a screenshot of the evidence, take a picture of the evidence. If you have the phone number, save the phone number and go to your local police department and make a police report. What a lot of people don't know is that where the text message is received. So if you live in North Miami Beach and you get a text message that's threatening in nature, you need to come here to the North Miami Beach Police Department to report that. And as well, we have investigators that will work that case. We'll subpoena the phone number, find out who the subscriber is to that phone, and we'll try to track down that phone. Now, a lot of times, I will tell you this, a lot of the times these phones are purchased under false names, or they're throw phones, and they're used to do these types of crimes and perpetuate these types of crimes. And it's very difficult for us to track some of these threats. So it's also very important that, you know, you report these right away and don't let them continue on and on and on. Some other things that Chief Pegues touched on is phone calls, threatening phone calls. Don't engage these people. Don't say something to them to upset them even more. Don't slam the phone down, because once they've learned that they've got you upset, or that their motivation is to get you, you know, to react to them. So if you just say to them that I'm going to report you to the phone company, and you can call your phone companies, whatever it is, AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, whatever it is, you can report that number to them and they will actually look into it. Now, if it rises to a credible threat where they threaten your life or your family, they send you pictures. We've had cases where people have sent pictures of, you know, deceased bodies to family members. Those kind of things are taken very seriously. And again, we subpoena the phone numbers, and we actually, you know, will go out and try to find who these people are that are sending these messages. Over the last couple of years, I would say probably over the last 10 years, a little bit more than a couple, these types of threats have been getting more and more common in our society, because people have become more social media savvy, right? So whether they make a threat over the telephone, the computer, iPad, any type of communication, telephone, it's important that you look at the threat. It's important that if you don't know what to do, go to your local police department and let somebody know at the police department, you know, respectfully ask to speak with a police officer and find out what your process is that you can go through to immediately report this. Because if they're doing it to you, they're doing it to somebody else. And if they get through to you, or they threaten you and they get you to send them money or whatever, you know, whatever their thing is, they're going to continue doing it until it stops. And we're all victims of this. I'm victims of it too. And even when you tell them over the telephone that they've reached a police officer, you know, they continue. These people call from ported numbers, stolen numbers. They set up these phone lines. They do these, you know, they just send out random calls. And a lot of people get really scared because they don't know what to do and they don't know how to react. And they end up sending them money, or there's also a scam going on right now where people will call from a foreign country and say, I have your daughter held hostage, or your daughter's been arrested. My name is so-and-so. You have to pay us $500 to get her out of jail or to release her. And again, these are things that should be immediately reported to law enforcement. Most of them are scams. And most of them, you know, they're just trying to extort money out of you. So I hope I've answered some of those questions. If you have any questions, I look forward to answering anything else that you have. And again, thank you very much.
Perfect, great. Thank you for the information, Chief Rand. Our next guest speaker on our list today is our Sunny Isles Beach Captain, Mike Grondinetti. Mike?
Good afternoon. And I guess the disadvantages of going last is that there's probably not much left to talk about. First, let me just extend my Chief Snyder's apologies for not being here. He's a little under the weather right now. So I was given this last minute, but he's improving, getting better. Hopefully he'll be back soon. As far as Sunny Isles Beach, we have a commonality with North Miami Beach and Aventura. We have the same situation, same kind of threats. Again, threats are aggravated by a lot of different things in Sunny Isles, and one of our main is traffic. I mean, we're very congested with a lot of construction going on right now. We do the best we can, but like Chief Pegues and Chief Rand both stressed on, you're going to get in altercations out there on the street. The best way is just ignore them, get away from the situation, contact the police if you need to. There's no reason to get into any kind of altercations with people out on the street because they're temporary. If you leave them alone, chances are they're just going to keep going. Another one that we get a lot of, and I'm sure everybody else does also, is the phishing type of scams where they call you and tell you a loved one's been in an accident or somebody's in jail, like Chief Rand just stressed, and asking you to send money. Can't stress enough, do not send money. Contact the police. We'll look into it. We'll take the report. We have Detective Bureau here that's sitting here waiting to look into those things. We'll let you know if it's real or not. Again, I don't want to keep beating a dead horse, repeating the same things over and over again. If you have any questions, we're here at Sunny Isles Beach. Just contact us, and like I said, we'll be glad to look into anything that you guys have or you think is a threat.
Perfect. Thank you, Captain, and give our best to the Chief, please.
I will.
I've been kind of looking at the chat room, if you will, and Michael, there's quite a few questions. I know Chief Pegues has chimed in on quite a few, but if you've been looking at it, is there anything there in the questions of the chat rooms from our guest speakers that you want to call out and Chief Pegues can guide them to the appropriate party?
I think Chief Pegues is answering almost all of them. I don't know if he addressed the one about training for law enforcement, if somebody wants to address that.
If I could just chime in real quick, I haven't read the one for training yet, but there was one on there of particular note that I just want, I think it's important for everybody to have the information on. So there was one about reporting anti-Semitic phone calls, or not necessarily something that rises to a threat, but just maybe it might be literature or harassing type phone calls, and should we report those? The answer is a resounding absolutely, please do. We track, a lot of times what'll happen, especially with businesses that still have fax machines, or sometimes you'll get like a robocall and there'll be something of an anti-Semitic nature that comes through. Please, please, please report all of that. We have, and I know North Miami Beach and some of our other partner agencies do as well. We have somebody full-time assigned to the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force, and we take it very, very seriously. So even if it's something that comes across, it might be a minor type thing. It could be from a group that's doing other things that you may not know about, and we work, we put all that into a database, and we work and look into those incidents. So please, if you do get those, don't ignore it. Just let us know. We're more than happy to come out and take a look at it and report it.
There was one in the very beginning, Chief. It said, I reported a scam in ic3.gov, but no one ever got back to me. My friend paid money thinking it was me. How to make sure it's being taken care of? I guess the question is, if the individual reported it to this agency, is there any follow-up measures? That's kind of, I guess, the question I got out of it.
Yeah, and maybe Bryan can give some more insight into it too. I mean, once you go onto the ic3.gov website, I would advise everybody when you get a chance just to go on there and see the different things that you can report. They do put on there is, if you do report something, you're just going to get a reply saying that they received your submittal. That's it. You're going to get it. They do submit it if it's something that the local agency needs to work. They will work it. They do get the information. It does go into kind of like a triage where they look at it and send it to an investigation. Very rarely are they going to, because it's usually part of a larger investigation, are they going to get back to you directly? And I don't know if Bryan, working with the FBI, could shed a little bit more light on that.
Unmute, Bryan.
So, yep, sorry about that. So one of the big problems that the FBI has is, and it's not really a problem, it's a good thing, we have thresholds. So there's economic thresholds on just about every violation that we work. So while you may have been a victim of a fraud that involved like $2,000–3,000, that's something that if we took to the U.S. Attorney's Office, they're just going to decline, because our threshold for working an economic case, especially in the Southern District of Florida, is about $100,000. Now, the importance of reporting it, though, is the more victims that we can identify from the same perpetrator or the same subject, when we can start stacking those together, that way we can work our cases and be able to make up that threshold. So the long and short of it is, if they're doing it to you, they're probably doing it to dozens of other people. So what we need to do is we need to compile all of that information, put it together, come up with a plan to arrest and continue our investigation, and then be able to hopefully make it to that threshold where we have enough money lost that the U.S. Attorney's Office is willing to work it.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you to the both of you. There was one I also saw about, is there anything we can do about harassing computer generated robocalls? Sometimes it's the same person, same recording, yada, yada, yada. What about robocalls? I know you're laughing, Agent, but I think right now that's just a fact of life.
I hate them too, so that's why I'm laughing. I think I got one while we were on this call. So yes, unfortunately for us, many of these robocalls are taking place or generated overseas. And that becomes the difficulty for us. So we have, the FBI and the federal government has authorization, everything domestically here within the United States, but it becomes more difficult to deal with things overseas. I don't know if any of the other chiefs have some further information.
Yeah, I do. Real quick, Brian. Most of our telephones, whether you're T-Mobile, AT&T, whatever carrier you're on, or whatever internet service you use, you can download an app depending on what type of mobile device you use, and you can actually block and filter these calls out. I know I have it on my phone, and the robocalls have completely stopped. So you just have to search on your phone and go through your store, whether it's AT&T, the iPhone store, or I have an Android, so I go through the Android store, and you can actually download an app that will block those robocalls. Unfortunately, a lot of them are spoofed numbers, and like Brian said, they're from overseas, and they're almost impossible to stop. Also, there was another comment on there that if you report a crime to the police department and you don't hear anything back, stay on top of it. Call and find out who the crime has been reported to, who the detective is. Find out what they're doing, what's the status of the case. We also have levels where we actually triage reports. And a lot of the times the detectives sometimes get overwhelmed with some pretty major cases. And sometimes those cases, become secondary or third if we pick up a major crime scene case. So just stay on top of the police department and find out who your detective is. And if you don't get a response that way, then just simply ask for a supervisor. We're all here to do one job, and we'll help you get the answers that you need for your cases. Just don't give up. And if you think it's a problem, let us know, and we'll take care of it on our end.
Perfect. Thank you, Chief. There was a general question in around halfway through, and somebody wrote, can we report on behalf of someone else? I see Chief shaking his head.
No, in order to have a crime, you have to have a victim. If you have no victim, you have no crime. So reporting on behalf of somebody else, my first question would be, why are we reporting for somebody else? Where's the victim in the crime? Unless if it's domestic related and we're talking about threats and you live next door to somebody, then you can call the police to do a check on the welfare. Or if you hear a husband or wife or somebody yelling and screaming at their domestic partner, then yes, by all means, call the police. Or if you feel that there's abuse, somebody's being threatened via abuse, then definitely call for that. You can also call 1-800-ABUSE hotline to report that as well. So the answer is yes, and the answer is no, but we need a victim in order to investigate a crime.
Perfect. Thank you. Michael, did you see, or Chief Pegues, did you see any other questions that weren't answered or I may have missed?
Yeah, I think you touched on one before. There was a question on there, I have to go back to it, but about training. What training do police officers receive for these type of calls? I could speak for law enforcement and our agency in general is, the line officer that's going to be coming out to be handling your call, they do receive training. We have state mandated training on several areas. And we do here at the Aventura Police Department, because fraud, identity theft, these types of scams are very popular and something that affects our community greatly. We do provide in-service training on how to recognize them, how to, what information we need and what to file. But really our detectives, who are the experts here, and I mentioned before that they're assigned to federal task forces, they have extensive training. And not only is it on-the-job training, they've been doing it for years and years and years. They've gone around the country to receive training at different federal training centers. They've gone and other law enforcement courses, whether it be sometimes in New York, some places in other states, to receive this type of training. And actually, two of our investigators in our economic crimes unit are actually instructors, and they go and teach other brand new detectives, officers, and they go up to one of the federal training centers that's outside of Florida that they do that. They've done that a couple of times so far. So there is a lot of training, that the crimes are always changing, they're always evolving. So internally, we're always looking at things and what to be aware of. And once we start prosecuting and people become aware of certain things, the criminals just turn to something else. It's really amazing, and it's something to keep on top of. But we do provide training for everybody to handle these types of calls.
Perfect. Thank you, Chief. Michael, Elaine, anything else?
There's a question here, but it looks like it's more specific to Sunny Isles Beach about an individual. So I don't think it's really regarding this particular Zoom meeting, but I would recommend that individual call Sunny Isles Beach directly to get that particular question answered. That's from Robert Samudio.
Perfect. Elaine, anything else? Ms. Adler?
No, just great information, and the Aventura Marketing Council Chamber and Greater North Miami Beach Chamber, very, very fortunate. We had a great audience here, and I'm seeing the responses come in. Just really, really valuable information, and we're very, very appreciative of all four of you coming and taking your time.
No, absolutely. I echo what Elaine said. I was watching the comment section and the people that were joining the meeting. So to have in the area of 90 people to take the time today to join this meeting, I think is an exceptional turnout, and it goes to the guests that we have. So that being said, I'd like to thank our guest, FBI Special Agent Bryan Waterman, Chief Pegues from the city of Aventura, Chief Rand from North Miami Beach, Captain Grandinati from Sunny Isles Beach. I'd also like to thank, as Elaine spoke on behalf of, our sponsor for today, the city of Sunny Isles Beach, and our partner, the Greater North Miami Beach Chamber and Conference, and that's Evan and Leslie. Thank you very much for joining us today. Again, all of our panel members, we really do appreciate the four of you taking your time out and spending it with us today, especially during this time and everybody's home. So some of the items that you touched base upon today are even more prevalent during the times in which we live. And last but not least, our administrator, Mr. Michael Stern, we thank you for taking the time out again today to do this. Thank you to all of those audience members that took your time out today. Have a great day in the city of Aventura and Sunny Isles Beach. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And North Miami Beach, right?
North Miami Beach, sorry.
North Miami Beach.
Sorry.
3 cities, and the FBI covers all of them.
There you go. Thank you to everybody for taking your time today. Let's just leave it at that. Thank you, Elaine.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody. Have a great day.
Gentlemen. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Leslie, you had a great turn.